Before we dive into this wild ride, drop a quick hi in the comment section. It might feel like a tiny thing, but trust me, it makes a huge difference. That simple hi tells YouTube to share this story with even more sci-fi fans, more dreamers, more explorers just like us. I'd honestly love to see where you're tuning in from. Are you watching late at night with headphones on, or blasting this on a speaker while imagining the galaxy burning? Either way, say hi. I'll be checking. Commander Zexthul of the Hegemony stood on the observation deck of his flagship, the Inevitable Judgment, staring down at the blue and white marble spinning silently beneath him. The planet looked harmless, fragile even, like a child's toy hanging in the void. His 4 eyes narrowed into slits as he replayed the intelligence briefings for the 50th time, trying to reconcile the reports with what his instincts screamed. Humans. A so-called Level 7 civilization. Barely crawling past nuclear fire, still strapping themselves to primitive chemical rockets, squabbling endlessly with each other over food prices, sports teams, and political trivia. A species that, by every metric, should have been centuries away from matching to the Council. And yet, they cannot possibly be ready, he clicked, mandibles snapping in irritation. A display of overwhelming force will crush their arrogance and bring them to heel before they stumble into anything dangerous. His tactical officer nodded silently, though his antennae twitched with unease. And indeed, the Armada was a sight that should have cowed any world into submission. 12,000 ships, dreadnoughts, carriers, destroyers, and cruisers, each bearing the banners of 47 different species. A coalition forged not out of unity, but out of shared annoyance. The humans had become a problem. It started small. Trade disputes that ended not in compromise but in alien merchants quietly weeping after negotiating with human buyers who somehow convinced them they'd gotten the better end of the deal. Diplomatic summits where human ambassadors lobbed bizarre questions no galactic delegate was prepared for. Why don't you just print more money? Or worse, have you tried turning it off and on again? But the incident that finally broke the galaxy's patience came 3 weeks earlier. A human cargo freighter, slow, rusty, and crewed by civilians, had accidentally wandered into a restricted war zone. By the time the Hegemony picked up its signal, the freighter was already behind the Vrexian fleet during live-fire exercises. The Vrexians, master strategists who had crushed 47 star systems with surgical precision, had been forced to abort the entire exercise. Why? Because none of them could explain how a human vessel, with no cloaking tech and a broken navigation system, had managed to appear where no ship should have been. Zexthul suppressed a shudder at the memory. Accident, he told himself. Nothing more. Commander, his comms officer interrupted, voice sharp, we're receiving a transmission from the planet. His mandibles flexed. Already? We haven't even issued demands yet. The officer hesitated, clearly embarrassed. It's not from their government, sir. It appears to originate from something called tick-tock. For a moment, silence hung heavy over the command deck. What would a civilization's first words to an alien armada be? A plea? A declaration of war? A carefully rehearsed diplomatic statement? No. Humanity's grand response was a dance app. The screen flickered and suddenly an image filled the bridge. A teenage human, hair dyed neon pink, bouncing with uncontainable excitement in what appeared to be her backyard. Behind her, clear as day, the alien fleet glimmered against the sky. Oh, my God. You guys, she squealed, pointing upward with manic energy. The aliens are here. And they brought, like, their entire squad. She spun around theatrically, arms outstretched. This is literally the best day of my life. Oh. Get the good snacks. Zexthul's mandibles twitched violently. Is this their leader? The tactical officer coughed. Negative, Commander. According to our intelligence, humans possess no single leader. Instead, they have roughly 195 governments, most of which appear to disagree on fundamental truths, including temperature measurements. The commander felt his secondary eyelids twitch. Then who speaks for them? We're still trying to determine that, sir. 20 minutes later, chaos reigned across Earth's networks. Nations scrambled, news outlets screamed, and the planet's so-called leaders hastily cobbled together what they optimistically labeled a unified response team. The result was less strategic counsel and more tech support gone wrong. Half the delegates' cameras were upside down. One minister had their microphone muted the entire time while shouting angrily at the screen. Someone's cat walked directly across their keyboard and triggered 6 different filters. The president of Brazil appeared to be sautéing onions in the background. Okay, can everyone just mute? Mute yourselves unless you're speaking, barked the UN Secretary General, hair sticking out wildly. We've got 12,000 alien warships overhead, and CNN is asking if this is going to delay the climate summit. A tired voice broke through the static. I say we let Johnson handle it, suggested the British Prime Minister, looking like he hadn't slept in days. He's used to impossible situations. Which Johnson? Asked 3 different leaders at once, all leaning toward their screens like kids in detention. The Australian one, said the British Prime Minister. He wrestles crocodiles. That is not how diplomacy works, the German Chancellor snapped, eyes wide with disbelief. Yeah, the Canadian delegate muttered, sipping coffee, but has diplomacy ever dealt with this? The video call dissolved into overlapping arguments. Somebody sneezed loudly without muting, and the Japanese representative was quietly stress-eating rice crackers in the corner. Humanity's so-called unified front looked less like a planetary council and more like a chaotic family Zoom call. Meanwhile, far above Earth's orbit, Commander Zexthal rubbed his temples. Or rather, the hardened plates where temples should have been. His fleet's AI had been monitoring the human global communication web, and was now spitting out reports that felt less like intelligence briefings and more like fever dreams. Commander, his comms officer stammered, antennae twitching nervously, the humans appear to be laughing at us. Zexthal blinked slowly, his mandibles clicking. Laughing? Yes, sir. Their networks, millions of voices instantly connected, are generating approximately 47,000 memes per minute regarding our presence. Memes? Zexthal echoed the word like it was a curse. The officer nodded gravely. Most involve something called Karens demanding to speak to our manager. Zexthal reluctantly pulled up the feed. A tidal wave of bizarre imagery crashed across his screen. Alien warships pasted into cheesy stock photos, accompanied by captions humans seemed to find hilarious. One image showed the inevitable judgment looming over Earth with the text, POV, you're about to ask Earth why their Wi-Fi password is password 123. Another showed a destroyer photoshopped into a fast food drive-through line with the words, when you came to conquer humanity but they ask if you want fries with that. Zexthal stared in horrified silence. Sir, another officer reported, we are also receiving thousands of friend requests on something called Facebook. What? Zexthal growled, is a Facebook? We don't know, Commander. But 3 of our junior officers have already accepted them. For a long, terrible moment, Zexthal said nothing. His mighty invasion fleet, an armada capable of glassing entire planets, was being pulled into humanity's social media. Somewhere in the galaxy, legendary conquerors were rolling in their graves. Don't you just hate it when your campaign of domination gets hijacked by memes and friend requests? At last, after 47 minutes of escalating chaos, Earth somehow cobbled together an official communication channel. The main display aboard the inevitable judgment flickered, and the face of a middle-aged human woman appeared. She wore a neat business suit, sitting in what looked like a hastily converted meeting room. A wrinkled banner hung behind her that read in bold block letters, Earth, mostly harmless. Hello, she said brightly, waving with disarming cheerfulness. I'm Dr. Sarah Chin, and I'll be your Earth representative today. How can we help you? Zexthal's 4 eyes widened. This wasn't right. This wasn't how first contact was supposed to unfold. Where were the trembling civilians begging for mercy? Where was the fearful silence in the face of overwhelming power? Instead, this woman looked like she was about to sell him a timeshare. Zexthal boomed, standing tall, am Commander Zexthal of the Galactic Council Enforcement Fleet. We are here to, oh wow, 12,000 ships. Dr. Chen interrupted, leaning forward with delighted curiosity. That's so cool. Did you guys coordinate that, or was it more of a whoever shows up kind of thing? Zexthal froze mid-sentence. What? I mean, the logistics alone must have been insane. Did you use a group chat? Like, who organizes catering for 12,000 ships? You must burn through snacks like crazy. On the bridge, Zexthal's tactical officer leaned in quietly. Sir, I don't think she understands the situation. Zexthal's mandibles snapped open, his patience gone. We are here, he roared, his voice reverberating through the chamber. To deliver an ultimatum to your species. Oh, got it, Dr. Chin said pleasantly, nodding as if she were in a customer feedback meeting. Okay, shoot. Oh, wait, she laughed nervously, bad word choice. I mean, go ahead. Zexthal inhaled deeply, focusing. Your species has become a destabilizing force in this sector. You have disrupted trade routes, defied diplomatic protocols, and triggered no less than 3 interspecies incidents involving what you call customer service complaints. Yeah, Dr. Chin admitted without missing a beat, that sounds like us. We're still kinda working on that whole reading the room thing. Zexthal ignored the interruption. Your chaotic expansion must be contained. You will accept council oversight, submit to our authority, and cease this reckless influence upon galactic civilization. For the first time, Dr. Chin paused. She tilted her head thoughtfully. And if we say no? Zexthal leaned forward, letting the full menace of his voice resonate across the bridge. Then we will demonstrate our superior firepower and force your compliance. The silence that followed was heavy, stretching across the void itself. Every officer on the bridge leaned in, waiting for the human's inevitable collapse into fear. Instead, Dr. Chen's lips curled into a smile. Her shoulders shook. And then she laughed. A soft chuckle at first, then louder, until the sound echoed through the speakers of the alien fleet like a weapon they had no defense against. Laughter. Pure, unbothered, unshaken laughter. In that moment, every alien aboard the inevitable Judgment realized something horrifying. Humans weren't scared. Not a polite chuckle. Not a restrained giggle. What erupted from Dr. Chen was full body, doubled over, tears streaming, can't breathe, 30 seconds of chaos laughter. The sound carried across the speakers of 12,000 alien warships like some bizarre weaponized frequency. The bridge crew of the inevitable Judgment froze, mandibles slack, claws hovering uselessly over consoles, while their commander stood rigid, watching the human laugh as if the entire invasion had already slipped out of his claws. I'm sorry, Dr. Chin wheezed at last, trying and failing to compose herself. She dabbed at her eyes with a crumpled napkin. I really am. But, you guys honestly don't know us at all, do you? Zexthal's mandibles clattered like grinding gears. What do you mean? Well, for starters, Dr. Chin said cheerfully, you're threatening to blow up our planet if we don't behave. Correct. She raised an eyebrow. The same species that looked at the atom and thought, I bet we could weaponize this. Zexthal hesitated. Yes. The same species that invented something called hold my beer moments? I am unfamiliar with this term, he admitted, antennae twitching nervously. Dr. Chin leaned forward, grinning like a poker player about to lay down a royal flush. Commander, in all those intelligence reports you read on humanity, did anyone mention what happens when someone tries to bully us? Zexthal tapped his datapad, scrolling. Your species engages in what's termed asymmetric warfare, with a historical tendency toward. He stopped mid-sentence, mandibles freezing. Oh. Yeah, oh is right, Dr. Chin said. You know what happened the last time someone marched in with overwhelming force and told us to surrender? Zexthal flicked his lower eyes at the datapad. According to this, you threw tea into a harbor and started a revolution? Exactly. And that's just the warm-up act. She folded her arms. We've also got this little chapter called World War II, where humanity basically looked an entire evil empire in the face, said, come at us, bro, and then went on to invent superweapons while rationing chocolate and gasoline. You see a problem here? Have you ever seen a warlord realize in real time that his entire strategy might be one giant mistake? The bridge of the inevitable Judgment looked like that moment, bottled and broadcast in HD. The comms officer suddenly yelped. Sir, it gets worse. I dug deeper into their historical logs. There's a phenomenon listed here, called Florida Man. Florida, a man? Zexthal repeated cautiously. Yes, sir. At first, we assumed it was a singular individual. A warlord, perhaps. But It appears to be some kind of collective consciousness of chaos. Last week, one of them attempted to fight an alligator while riding a shopping cart for amusement. Zexthal's 4 eyes widened. And the outcome? Not only did he survive, sir, he gained sponsorship. Dr. Chen nodded solemnly, like a teacher backing up her student's presentation. Yep, that's pretty standard for us. Oh, and Commander? You might want to check your fleet's positioning. Our formation is flawless, Zexthal snapped. Standard intimidation protocol. Perfect symmetry. Impossible to outmaneuver. Dr. Chen tilted her head innocently. Wow. And when you guys were busy practicing your whole dramatic entrance thing, did it occur to anyone to check what humans might be doing while you were posing? A sudden, crawling dread crept up Zexthal's armored spine. Tactical. Full-spectrum sweep. Immediately, the officer's claws danced over the console. Moments later, the blood drained from his mandibles. His voice cracked in new octaves of panic. Yes, sir. We have a problem. Multiple problems. All the problems. Zexthal's eyes narrowed to slits. Report. The tactical officer swallowed hard. While we've been conversing, approximately 47,000 human civilian craft have launched. They are surrounding us. The bridge filled with disbelieving hisses. Impossible. Zexthal thundered. Humans barely possess spaceflight. They cannot feel the counterfleet. The officer's voice trembled. Tell that to Elon Musk's clone army, sir. Our sensors are detecting everything from modified SpaceX rockets to what appears to be a weaponized Tesla with a nuclear reactor duct taped to the back. Dr. Chen's smile turned into a predator's grin. She leaned forward until her face filled the screen. Oh, did I forget to mention? While you guys were staging your little intimidation parade, her voice dropped, casual and terrifying all at once. We were having what we call a come-and-take-it moment. Zexthal's mandibles clicked. Hey, what? It's this thing we do, Dr. Chen said smoothly, her grin stretching wider. When bullies show up, we don't panic. We improvise. And you made one critical error in your intelligence gathering. Zexthal's mandibles twitched. Which was? You assumed, she said, savoring the words, that because we argue with each other, we can't work together. But here's the thing about humans, Commander. We might fight like cats and dogs over literally everything from politics to pineapple on pizza, but the moment some external threat shows up, her grin sharpened, predatory. The kind of grin predators get right before the kill. We become the scariest, most innovative, most stubbornly persistent species this galaxy has ever seen. And right now, every single human on Earth is asking the exact same question. How do we mess with these aliens? As if on cue, the tactical display lit up like a Christmas tree on steroids. Thousands of pings flared red, blue, and green. Human ships, if you could call them that, were flooding into orbit from every conceivable angle. Passenger planes with rocket boosters bolted onto their wings. Cruise ships refitted with railguns. Someone insane, had strapped engines to the International Space Station and was steering it like a medieval battering ram. Sir, the tactical officer squeaked. We are detecting. Sir, is that a weaponized food truck? It's got a taco cannon, Dr. Chen confirmed brightly, as if she were describing a new amusement park ride. We weren't sure if you guys were lactose intolerant, but we figured we'd find out the fun way. There was a long, horrified silence on the alien bridge. What do you do when your supposedly primitive enemy starts shooting Mexican food at your battle fleet? This is madness, Zexthal muttered, claws flexing uselessly. How did they mobilize so quickly? The comms officer answered, voice breaking. According to our intercepts, sir, someone posted the challenge on something called Reddit. The response was enthusiastic. Dr. Chen nodded smugly. Yeah, our /DIY and our /SpaceX had a collab event. You should see what they built in 12 hours with duct tape and caffeine. Oh wait, you will see it. In about 30 seconds. Commander, another officer shrieked. Multiple launches detected from the North American continent. Zexthal's mandibles flared. More ships. Negative, sir. They appear to be launching cars. Into space. With people still inside. That's impossible. Zexthal barked. The G-forces alone would... Correction, sir. the officer interrupted, voice shrill with disbelief. One of them is currently performing donuts around our port flank. Zexthal turned, and sure enough, the tactical feed showed it. A modified Dodge Challenger, flame decals blazing across its hull, strapped with repurposed ICBM thrusters, looping around his dreadnought like an angry wasp. The vehicle's external speakers blared what the translator identified as "Fortunate Son," at a volume loud enough to register on his bridge instruments. Dr. Chen folded her hands primly. "Commander, I think there's something you need to understand about humans. We're not just chaotic because we can't help it. We're chaotic because it works." "Works? For what?" Zexthal demanded, though dread coiled in his thorax. "For surviving," she said. "You know what our planet has tried to kill us with? Ice ages, supervolcanoes, meteor impacts, plagues, and, of course, other humans. And we're still here. You know why?" His voice came out low. "Enlighten me." Dr. Chen's eyes glittered. "Because when faced with extinction, humans don't just adapt. We don't just survive. We look at the thing trying to kill us and ask, but how can we make this fun?" As if scripted by the universe itself, the tactical display updated again. A human craft, a hodgepodge of rocket parts, lawnmower engines, and questionable engineering choices, lit its boosters and carved contrails across the alien formation. Its path spelled out 2 words in perfect block letters: "Send nudes." "Commander," the comms officer squealed. We are receiving a direct transmission from the taco truck." Zexthal froze. "Put it through." The screen flickered, and a new voice crackled across the comms, rich, slow, and carrying what the translator identified as a Texas accent. "Howdy there, space folks," drawled the transmission, thick with Texan warmth and menace in equal measure. "This here's Captain Rodriguez of the SS Guacamole. Y'all look mighty peckish. Lucky for you, today's special is our atomic salsa. Comes with real atoms in it, if you catch my drift." The alien bridge fell into stunned silence. Zexthal's mandibles clicked. Are you threatening us with weaponized food?" "Threatenin'?" Rodriguez chuckled, low and dangerous. "Nah, partner. We're threatening you with something far worse. And that would be terrible customer service." His grin was audible. "You ever tried getting a refund from humans? We invented the phrase 'your call is very important to us,' then left folks on hold for 3 hours while playing royalty-free jazz. You think nukes are scary? Try listening to smooth sax for eternity." On the bridge, one of Zexthal's junior officers whispered, horrified, "That's monstrous." The tactical officer's voice trembled. "Sir, status update. We are now completely surrounded by approximately 60,000 human vessels of various interpretations. They appear to be firing celebratory munitions, playing something called Sweet Home Alabama at deafening levels, and..." He paused, staring at his screen. "Sir, someone is live broadcasting this entire confrontation on a network labeled Twitch." Zexthal hissed. "How many are watching?" The officer's voice cracked. "Approximately 2.7 billion, sir. And the donation tracker indicates they are funding more ship construction in real time. At current rates, they'll have another 10,000 ships by the end of this hour." Dr. Chen's image flickered on the main display. Her tone softened, losing the mockery for just a heartbeat. "Commander, can I ask you something?" "What?" "Why did you really come here?" His mandibles worked. "To establish order. To prevent chaos." "But why? What's so terrifying about a little chaos?" The alien commander faltered. The Galactic Council had spent eons sanding the edges off every civilization. Order, stability, predictability, that was their gospel. Chaos meant risk, instability, collapse. "Because chaos is unpredictable," he admitted finally. "Dangerous. So is a supernova," Dr. Chen said gently. "But nobody tries to arrest one." Her eyes gleamed. "What if I told you that for humans, chaos isn't a bug, it's a feature?" Zexthal narrowed his eyes. "I don't understand." 3 days ago, Dr. Chen said, counting on her fingers, one of our chaotic shipping freighters accidentally discovered faster-than-light communication while trying to boost their Wi-Fi signal. 2 weeks before that, a college sophomore cracked a 300-year-old mathematical theorem, because she was optimizing her pizza delivery route. She gestured to the armada of madness outside. This isn't random destruction. This is what happens when an entire species gets excited about a problem. But the destabilization, when was the last time your people invented something genuinely new, Commander? The question hit him like a railgun to the thorax. He realized with mounting dread that he could not answer. We have a stable society, he said weakly. Stable. Static. Stagnant, Chin countered. Same thing, really. She leaned back, utterly relaxed. So here's how this goes. You've got two choices. Zexthul bared his fangs. We have superior firepower. Chin tilted her head. Do you, though? As if on cue, the void lit up. Every human vessel powered weapons that should not, by any sane engineering standard, exist. Railguns assembled from discarded maglev train parts. Solar laser arrays cobbled together from DVD burners and sheer audacity. Someone had apparently turned a household microwave into a focused radiation cannon, now actively chewing through the hegemony flagship's shields. Sir, the tactical officer whispered, mandibles trembling, our analysis indicates a 73% probability that engaging these vessels would not defeat them, but instead result in them becoming more creative. And then it began. First, softly from the SS Guacamole. Captain Rodriguez's voice booming across the comms. Musical note, just a small-town girl. Musical note, the translator identified it as Don't Stop Believin' by Journey. Within seconds, 60,000 human ships joined in. Fighter jets strapped with rocket boosters, luxury yachts converted into missile carriers, literal minivans with thrusters duct taped to their sides, all of them belting out the same anthem in a horrifyingly unified, gloriously chaotic chorus. The harmonies carried across the void, shaking the alien fleet to its very core. It was not music. It was not war. It was something worse. It was humanity having fun. Zexthul stared into the abyss and realized too late that the abyss was laughing, singing, and live-streaming it to billions. Sir, the harmonic resonance is interfering with our targeting systems. Zexthul's mandibles twitched. They're jamming us. With music. It appears so, Commander. Also, incoming telemetry. We are receiving approximately 4,000 friend requests per minute on multiple human networks. Someone has also created a Wikipedia page about us. It lists our hobbies as intimidation, losing space battles, and having a bad time. The bridge crew stared at him nervously. Dr. Chen's smile widened, just enough to be unnerving. So here's the deal, Commander. Choice 1, you fight us. Then you discover what humans are like when we actually try to hurt someone. Spoiler alert, we invented napalm, nuclear weapons, and biological warfare before we figured out how to make ice cream that didn't melt in the sun. Zexthul bristled. And choice 2, you join the party. Chin leaned in, eyes gleaming. Literally, we're throwing the first interstellar block party in galactic history. Price of admission, you gotta bring something interesting to share. This is highly irregular. Commander, Chin said, voice low and dangerous, everything about us is highly irregular. That's why we're fun. Zexthul turned to his tactical display. 60,000 human ships, orbiting in a ragtag constellation, blasting journeys, shooting fireworks, live-streaming to billions. His weapons were useless. His fleet's morale was evaporating. He could swear one of his officers had just uploaded a TikTok of themselves singing karaoke with a human fighter pilot. His intelligence reports had warned him humans were reckless, unpredictable, prone to irrational behavior. What they hadn't warned him was that it was infectious. Sir, his comms officer interrupted. Permission to, sir, the crew is asking if they can join the singing. What? Zexthul snapped. It's just, sir, the harmonics are really quite moving. And Ensign Klaxon has always wanted to try what the humans call karaoke. And that was the moment Commander Zexthul realized the horrifying truth. You don't defeat humans, because defeating them isn't the point. The point is, they make you want to see what they'll do next. He straightened, mandibles clicking. Fine, Dr. Chin. You said we must bring something to share? That's the ticket. Very well. Zexthul opened his fleet-wide channel, his voice echoing into the stars. Attention all vessels. The hegemony will contribute our knowledge of transdimensional engineering. For a beat, there was silence. Then, an explosion of cheers from 60,000 human ships, audible across every channel, every frequency, every band of the spectrum. They weren't just happy. They were ecstatic. "Oh, this is going to be good," Chin cackled. "Fair warning, Commander. In the next 12 minutes, you're going to get 47,000 questions about transdimensional engineering. And at least 12 of them will be, can we put a drive-through in it?" "A what?" "You'll find out once you meet Florida Man." Chin squinted at her datapad. "Speaking of which, he's already halfway done building an interdimensional hot dog stand using your schematics." Zexthul buried his face in his claws. "How does he even have access to?" No, I don't want to know." And so it was that the mighty hegemony invasion fleet accidentally kick-started the largest intercultural exchange in galactic history. 6 hours later, human engineers were swapping fusion reactor designs for alien gravity wave stabilizers. The SS Guacamole's taco cannon had been upgraded with quantum condiments. "Try the burrito that exists in all states until you bite it," Captain Rodriguez bragged. A Centaurian diplomat with 6 arms was being taught how to duck face for selfies by a human teenager who had, somehow, gotten 3 million followers in the last hour. And somewhere out there, someone was welding a spoiler onto a trans-dimensional dreadnought for the aesthetic. What do you do when you come to conquer a planet and end up starting the galaxy's loudest, weirdest, most beautiful block party instead? You sing along. Commander Zexthul stood on the observation deck of his flagship, staring at the madness unfolding below. Fireworks, karaoke, quantum burritos, and now, apparently, somebody had organized an interspecies conga line that stretched across 3 docking bays. And sitting next to him, sipping something that smelled suspiciously like caffeinated jet fuel, was Dr. Chin. Her mug read, "World's okayest planet." "So," she asked casually, "think the Galactic Council's gonna be pissed?" Zexthul let out a sound that might have been a laugh, or maybe a sigh that had given up halfway. "Probably. But you know what? I don't think I care." "Why not?" He gestured to the view. "In 800 years of service, I've fought wars, crushed rebellions, enforced order across a dozen systems. I've never seen my crew like this. They're happy." "When was the last time you saw a hegemony officer laugh?" Chin smirked. "About 30 minutes ago when Ensign Klaxon discovered beer pong." "Exactly." He tilted his head regarding her. "Dr. Chin, may I ask you something?" "Shoot." "When you said chaos was a feature, not a bug, what did you mean?" Chin didn't answer right away. She just leaned on the railing watching a human pilot and an alien navigator team up to weld boosters onto a garbage scow, then paint #Yalisko on the side in glowing plasma ink. "Commander," she said at last, "the universe is chaos. Stars explode. Planets crash into each other. Quantum mechanics exist just to troll physicists. You can waste your life trying to impose order on all that, or you can learn to surf it." Zexthul blinked. "And humans surf chaos?" She grinned. "Commander, we are chaos. Beautiful, brilliant, unhinged chaos. And we figured out a long time ago that the best way to survive in a hostile universe isn't to control it, it's to dance with it. Make friends. Share food. Ask ridiculous questions. And when the universe tells us no, we say, cool, but what if we duct-taped rockets to it instead?" As if to prove her point, below them someone had hacked the hegemony's shield generators and was now projecting a pulsing light show synced to Journey's Don't Stop Believin'. Entire star systems could see the display, and galactic news outlets were already calling it the Aurora Humanis. "Your species," Zexthul said softly. "You're going to change everything." "Yeah." Chin raised her mug in a mock toast. "Better buckle up." The official report to the Galactic Council was creative. Commander Zexthul described the incident as a successful diplomatic initiative resulting in unprecedented technological exchange and cultural understanding. He did not mention the karaoke, the taco truck, the fact that his tactical officer now sported a glowing human tattoo that read "Born to Fly" in 17 languages. What he did mention was this: humans solved 3 major galactic engineering problems in one afternoon, accidentally. Their chaotic problem-solving methods were actually a form of distributed parallel processing. Any attempt to suppress, contain, or control humanity would likely result in them becoming creative in ways that would make the entire galaxy deeply uncomfortable. The Council's response was predictably bureaucratic. Continue monitoring the situation. Translation: we have no idea what to do with these lunatics. Just try not to let them blow up reality itself. But here's what the Council didn't realize: it was already far too late. The footage of the so-called Battle of Earth, humans called it a battle, everyone else called it a block party with questionable weaponry, had gone viral across the galactic net. Species that had never once questioned the order of things were suddenly asking why their governments were so boring. Young aliens were forming human appreciation societies. Galactic academies were flooded with students demanding courses in applied improvisation. And on the outer rim, rebels began spray-painting cryptic slogans on government buildings. WWJD, what would Jesus do? Despite having absolutely no idea who Jesus was, Dr. Chin had been right. Chaos wasn't just contagious. Humanity had just sneezed in the face of the galaxy, and now every species had caught it. 3 months later, Commander Zexthal received an invitation. Not through the official channels of the hegemony, not with pomp and ceremony. No, it was hand-delivered by a human piloting a modified pizza delivery ship that had somehow traveled 47 light-years in 36 hours. The vessel still smelled like pepperoni. The message read, Dr. Chin cordially invites you to attend the first annual Galactic Weirdness Festival, featuring human inventors, alien engineers, and absolutely no reasonable safety regulations. Bring snacks. BYOB, bring your own battleship. Clothing optional but strongly recommended. Location: anywhere humans are, which is apparently everywhere now. At the bottom in smaller text, P.S. We figured out how to make your trans-dimensional drive work with a McDonald's Happy Meal toy. Want to see? Zexthal glanced at his tactical display. 17 different species had already requested permission to attend this festival. His own officers were making plans. Apparently, hegemony warriors doubled as excellent DJ equipment when hooked into human sound systems. He opened a channel. Dr. Chin, this is Commander Zexthal. Commander, she answered instantly, cheerful as ever. Please tell me you're calling to RSVP. I am, he admitted. But I have one question. Shoot. What is a Happy Meal toy? Her laughter echoed across 3 star systems. Oh, Commander, you have so much to learn. As Zexthal set course for Earth, he realized Chin had been wrong about one thing. Humans didn't embrace chaos because it was useful for survival. They embraced it because it was fun. And fun, he realized with a shock, was exactly what the galaxy had been missing for millennia. But knowing humans, this was only the beginning. So let me ask you, reader, what would you do if the scariest thing in the galaxy wasn't war or conquest, but an invitation to friendship, tacos, and the unholy marriage of alien tech with human creativity? And more importantly, would you RSVP yes? Smash that hyperspace subscribe button for more stories about why humans are the galaxy's favorite chaos agents. And tell us in the comments, what would you bring to the Galactic Weirdness Festival?
The crimson sun of Kepler 442b cast long shadows across the agricultural domes of New Haven as Commander Sarah Chen made her evening rounds. The colony had been humanity's proudest achievement, a testament to their ability to adapt, survive, and thrive among the stars. 12,000 souls called this world home, their lives intertwined in the delicate dance of frontier existence. Sarah paused at the observation deck of the central command tower, watching children play in the hydroponic gardens below. Their laughter echoed through the transparent aluminum corridors, a sound that had become the heartbeat of their small civilization. Among them was her daughter, Lily, her dark hair catching the alien sunset as she chased her friends between the towering wheat stalks. Beautiful evening, isn't it? Dr. Marcus Webb joined her at the railing, his weathered hands gripping a steaming cup of synthetic coffee. As the colony's chief xenobiologist, Marcus had spent the last 5 years cataloging the remarkable biodiversity of their new world. His eyes, though kind, carried the weight of a man who had seen too much in his 63 years. Sarah nodded, but her expression remained troubled. The sensor arrays are picking up anomalous readings in the outer system. It's probably nothing, but you learn to trust your instincts, Marcus finished. He had known Sarah since the early days of the colony ship Meridian, had watched her evolve from a young officer into the steady leader who had guided them through crop failures, equipment breakdowns, and 1,000 small crises that defined colonial life. A soft chime echoed to the command center behind them. Lieutenant Torres, their communications officer, appeared in the doorway, her face pale. "Commander, we're receiving the transmission. It's not human." Sarah's blood chilled. In 5 years of settlement, they had encountered no signs of intelligent life. The galaxy had seemed vast and empty, theirs for the taking. She exchanged a glance with Marcus before following Torres to the communications console. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a face that would haunt Sarah's nightmares for the rest of her life. The being was tall, angular, with skin that seemed to shift between metallic silver and deep blue. Its eyes were large and multifaceted, like those of an insect, but there was an unmistakable intelligence burning within them. When it spoke, its voice was melodious, almost hypnotic. "Greetings, surface dwellers. I'm Zethkri, speaker for the Dominion of Ashmari. You have trespassed upon sacred ground, contaminated what was pure, violated the sanctity of the eternal garden." Sarah stepped forward, her training taking over despite the tremor in her hands. "This is Commander Sarah Chen of the human colony New Haven. We were not aware of any prior claims to this system. We come in peace and would be willing to negotiate." The being's expression shifted, its features contorting into what might have been amusement. "Peace. Such a quaint concept. You speak of negotiation as if you possess something we desire beyond your absence. You have 48 of your planetary rotations to abandon this world. After that, we will cleanse it as our ancestors intended." The transmission ended, leaving the command center in stunned silence. Sarah's mind raced through contingencies, evacuation procedures, defensive capabilities. New Haven had been established as a peaceful research colony. Their defensive systems were minimal, designed primarily to protect against natural hazards and wildlife. "How many ships do we have capable of evacuation?" she asked, though she already knew the answer would be insufficient. 3 cargo haulers and 2 shuttles. Torres replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "Even if we could somehow fit everyone aboard, which we can't, it would take weeks to ferry everyone to the nearest inhabited system." Marcus placed a steadying hand on Sarah's shoulder. "Maybe they're bluffing, testing us. In my experience, truly aggressive species don't usually announce their intentions." Sarah wanted to believe him, but the cold certainty in the alien's voice suggested otherwise. She activated the colony's emergency broadcast system, her voice echoing through every dwelling, every workplace, every corner of their small world. "Citizens of New Haven, this is Commander Chen. Please report to your designated assembly areas immediately. This is not a drill." The next 47 hours passed in a blur of desperate activity. The colonists worked with the quiet efficiency born of shared purpose, loading the ships with children, elderly, and essential personnel. Sarah made the hardest decisions of her life, choosing who would live and who would stay behind to face an uncertain fate. Dr. Amanda Rodriguez, the colony's physician, refused evacuation despite having a place on the first transport. "These people will need medical care," she said simply, gesturing to the 7,000 colonists who would remain. "I took an oath." Engineer Tom Nakamura disabled the mining equipment rather than leave it for the aliens. "If they want our world, they'll have to build their own infrastructure," he said, his jaw set in grim determination. As the final hours ticked away, Sarah stood once again on the observation deck, now largely empty except the skeleton crew that had volunteered to stay. Lily was safe aboard the transport ship Hope's Dawn, clutching a handmade doll and tearfully promising to be brave for Mommy. The memory of her daughter's small face pressed against the transport window would burn in Sarah's mind forever. "Contact," Torres announced. multiple ships decloaking on the system's edge. The Ashmari fleet was beautiful in its terrible symmetry, sleek vessels that seemed to flow like liquid metal, their hulls decorated with patterns that hurt to look at directly. There were dozens of them, each one larger than anything in New Haven's modest defensive grid. "They're hailing us," Toria said. Zethkri's face appeared once more, his expression unreadable. "Your time has expired, surface dwellers. Have you prepared for departure?" Sarah's voice was steady, betraying none of the fear that gnawed at her insides. "Speaker Zethkri, we've evacuated our non-essential personnel, but we need more time to complete the evacuation. Many of our people are children, elderly, or infirm. Surely your people understand compassion." The alien's head tilted, a gesture that seemed almost human. Compassion. Another intriguing concept. "Tell me, Commander Chen, do you show compassion to the bacteria you sterilize from your hands? Do you negotiate with the weeds you remove from your gardens?" "We're not bacteria," Sarah said, anger finally bleeding through her diplomatic facade. "We're sentient beings with families, dreams, cultures worth preserving. We're not so different from you." Zethkri's laugh was like breaking glass. "Not so different? Child, your species has existed for mere moments in cosmic time. You cling to a single world, produce offspring without regard for balance, consume resources without understanding consequence. You are chaos incarnate, entropy given form. The universe will be cleaner once you are gone." The transmission cut off. Moments later, the first energy beams lanced down from orbit. The biodomes exploded in brilliant flowers of flame and debris. The hydroponics labs where children had played just days before became twisted metal and shattered dreams. The residential sectors where families had built lives filled with hope and laughter were reduced to ash in seconds. Sarah watched her world die from the command bunker deep beneath the colony's foundation. The reinforced structure shook with each impact, dust raining from the ceiling as the Ashmari systematically obliterated everything her people had built. Emergency lights cast hellish shadows on the faces of the 37 colonists who had taken refuge in the bunker's depths. "Why aren't they targeting the bunker?" whispered Janet Corso, a teacher who had refused to leave her adult students behind. Dr. Webb checked his readings on a handheld scanner. "They're being surgical, destroying infrastructure but avoiding the deep foundations. They want the planet intact." When it finally stopped, the silence was somehow worse than the destruction. Sarah ordered the bunker sealed for 48 hours, standard protocol for orbital bombardment. The Ashmari would likely send ground forces to ensure complete destruction of human presence. But no ground forces came. Instead, after 2 days of waiting, they received another transmission from Zethkri. His image appeared on their emergency display, and Sarah could see the smoldering ruins of New Haven reflected in his multifaceted eyes. "The cleansing is complete," he announced. "However, we are not without mercy. We detected your pitiful shelter and have decided to demonstrate the magnanimity of the Ashmari. You survivors will be relocated to a suitable world, a reservation, if you will, where you may live out your brief lives without further contaminating the sacred spaces of the galaxy." Sarah felt rage building in her chest, a cold fury that seemed to crystallize around her heart. "And if we refuse? Then you die. The choice, as always, is yours." The next few hours were filled with bitter debate. Some argued for accepting the aliens' offer, grateful for any chance at survival. Others, led by Dr. Webb, advocated for armed resistance, futile though it might be. Sarah listened to every voice, weighed every argument, but in the end, the decision was hers to make. "We accept your offer," she told Zethkri when he called again. "But I want your word that our people aboard the evacuation ships will be left alone." "Your scattered refugees are of no consequence," the alien replied dismissively. They will live or die by their own limitations. We concern ourselves only with this world. The transport ship that came for them was a thing of alien beauty, its organic curves and shifting hull patterns mesmerizing the human eyes. Sarah and her 36 surviving colonists were loaded aboard like cargo, confined to a bare holding area with minimal life support. The journey to their new home took 3 weeks. Epsilon Reticuli 30 was a dead world, or rather, a dying one. Its sun was entering the final stages of stellar evolution, casting a sickly orange light over landscapes of crystallized salt flats and acid rain. The HFY deposited them at what had once been a research station belonging to another extinct species, its ruins barely habitable even with their emergency shelters. "Welcome to your new home," Zeth Kree announced as the transport prepared to depart. "Here you may contemplate the folly of your presumption. Perhaps in your final years you will achieve the wisdom to understand why your removal was necessary." As the alien ship disappeared into the poisoned sky, Sarah gathered her people around the pathetic shelter that would be their tomb. But instead of despair, she felt that cold rage crystallizing into something harder, more focused. She looked at each face. Dr. Webb with his quiet determination, Rodriguez with her healing hands, Nakamura with his engineer's precision, Torres with her gift for communication. 37 souls, all that remained of New Haven's dreams. "They think they've shown us mercy," Sarah said, her voice carrying clearly across the toxic landscape. "They think they've demonstrated their superiority. But they've made a mistake, a fundamental error in understanding what it means to be human." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We forgive. That's true. We forgive because forgiveness frees us from the burden of constant hatred. But forgiveness is not forgetting, and we never ever forget." Dr. Webb nodded slowly. "The evacuation ships. 3,000 survivors scattered across the galaxy." 3,000 witnesses, Sarah corrected. 3,000 seeds of memory. 3,000 reasons why the Ashmari will learn what revenge truly means. 7 years after the fall of New Haven, Captain Elena Vasquez piloted her reconnaissance fighter through the asteroid field with practiced ease, her enhanced reflexes compensating for the microgravity fluctuations that would have challenged a baseline human. The ship itself was a marvel of human engineering, its stealth systems based on theoretical principles that had become grim necessity in the years since first contact. Prometheus Base, this is Ghost 7. She transmitted on a tight beam frequency. Approaching designated coordinates. No sign of Ashmari patrol activity. The response came back encrypted, routed through 17 relay stations to prevent triangulation. "Copy, Ghost 7. You're cleared for final approach." "Welcome home, Elena." "Home." The word carried weight it had never possessed before the fall of New Haven. Hidden in the asteroid belt of an unnamed system, Prometheus Base had become humanity's secret heart, a place where survivors and volunteers work with single-minded purpose toward a goal that consumed their every waking moment. Elena's fighter slipped through the carefully concealed entrance, past defensive installations that could turn any approaching ship into superheated plasma. The hangar bay was vast, filled with vessels that bore no resemblance to the peaceful exploration ships of the old colonial fleet. These were weapons, each one designed for a specific aspect of the plan that had been 7 years in the making. Commander Sarah Chen, now bearing the rank of Admiral in humanity's Shadow Fleet, waited in the debriefing room. The years had carved lines around her eyes and threaded silver through her dark hair, but her gaze remained sharp as laser-focused steel. Beside her sat Dr. Marcus Webb, whose gentle demeanor now coexisted with an encyclopedic knowledge of Ashmari biology and psychology. "Report," Sarah said without preamble. Elena activated the holographic projector, filling the room with a 3-dimensional map of the Kepler 442 system. New Haven's ruins have been completely cleared. The Ashmari have constructed what appears to be a religious complex on the site of our former colony. Population estimates suggest approximately 50,000 inhabitants. "Pilgrims," Dr. Webb observed. They've turned our home into a shrine to their superiority. Sarah's expression didn't change, but Elena caught the slight tightening around her eyes. Defensive capabilities? Minimal. They're not expecting trouble. Why would they? As far as they know, humanity is either extinct or scattered to the winds. Time to disabuse them of that notion, Sarah said. She activated the base's internal communication system. All department heads to the war room. Operation Harvest Moon is now active. The war room of Prometheus Base was a testament to human adaptability and ruthless innovation. Holographic displays showed the positions of 63 distinct human settlements, survivor communities, and resistance cells scattered across 12 star systems. Each had contributed to the great work in their own way, some providing resources, others intelligence, still others serving as the source of volunteers who would never see their families again. Captain James Morrison, formerly of the Colony Defense Force, now commanded what remained of humanity's military assets. His scarred face bore witness to a dozen skirmishes with Ashmari patrol ships, learning their tactics through bitter experience. Fleet status: 17 stealth frigates, 32 fighters, and 8 transport vessels, all crews trained and ready. Dr. Amanda Rodriguez, who had survived the initial attack on New Haven, gestured to a display showing biological warfare protocols. The pathogen is ready for deployment. 7 years of analysis of Ashmari genetic samples has allowed us to create something truly elegant. It targets their neural pathways specifically, causing a cascading failure in their sensory processing centers. Duration? Sarah asked. 48 hours from initial exposure to complete neurological collapse. It's incredibly painful, but not immediately fatal. They'll have time to understand what's happening to them. Sarah nodded approvingly. The pathogen had been one of their most challenging developments, requiring samples collected during the few skirmishes where Ashmari casualties had been recovered. Dr. Rodriguez had spent sleepless months perfecting the delivery system. Engineer Tom Nakamura, his hair now completely gray, displayed schematics for their most ambitious creation. The orbital platforms are in position around 7 Ashmari worlds. Each one appears to be a standard communication relay, but they're actually mass drivers capable of accelerating metallic projectiles to significant fractions of light speed. Kinetic bombardment, Elena murmured. Turn their own strategy against them. With interest, Nakamura confirmed. Each platform can deliver the equivalent of a 100-megaton nuclear weapon with no radiation signature. Clean, precise, and utterly devastating. Sarah walked to the central display where a tactical overview showed the scope of their operation. Red markers indicated Ashmari worlds and installations. Blue markers showed human assets in position. Green lines traced supply routes and communication networks that had taken years to establish. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, her voice carrying the weight of 7 years of planning. Today we begin to collect the debt owed for New Haven. The Ashmari believe they taught us a lesson about power, about our place in the cosmic order. They're about to learn that humans have been teaching lessons about war for millennia. She paused, looking at each face in the room. They showed us mercy, believing it would demonstrate their superiority. They spared 37 lives, thinking it would be a testament to their magnanimity. But every human they allowed to live became a seed of their destruction. Every survivor became a witness, a keeper of memory, a carrier of purpose. Dr. Webb stepped forward, his academic manner unchanged despite the circumstances. I've spent 7 years studying Ashmari psychology, their social structures, their belief systems. They're a hierarchical species that values order above all else. Their greatest fear isn't death. It's chaos, unpredictability, the breakdown of their carefully maintained systems. Which is exactly what we're going to give them, Sarah concluded. Not just destruction, but incomprehensible destruction. They'll die knowing that their victims not only survived, but learned, adapted, and ultimately surpassed them. They wanted to teach us about power. Instead, they're about to discover what humans mean when we speak of revenge. The first phase of Operation Harvest Moon began at exactly 0800 Galactic Standard Time. Across 17 star systems, human agents simultaneously activated dormant infiltration protocols that had been established over years of careful positioning. Many of these agents had lived entire lives among alien populations, building identities, gaining trust, and waiting for this moment. On Ashmari Prime, the species' homeworld, Dr. Sarah Kim had spent 3 years working as a xenobotanist in their most prestigious research facility. Her human heritage was hidden beneath surgical modifications and carefully crafted documentation that identified her as a member of the Velen species, longtime allies of the Ashmari. When she released a pathogen in the facility's atmospheric systems, she whispered a prayer for the children of New Haven. Simultaneously, the kinetic bombardment platforms came online. The first target was the memorial complex built on New Haven's ruins. The metallic projectile struck at nearly 20% light speed, creating an explosion visible from the system's outer planets. Within seconds, 50,000 Ashmari pilgrims were vaporized, and the sacred site they had created became a crater 12 kilometers wide. The destruction spread like ripples on a pond. Transportation hubs, communication centers, military installations, and civilian population centers were struck in carefully orchestrated sequence. The Ashmari's defensive systems, designed to counter conventional attacks, were utterly useless against weapons that struck without warning from innocuous-looking satellites. But the physical destruction was only part of the plan. As Ashmari authorities struggled to understand what was happening, the pathogen began its work. Symptoms appeared first in the major population centers: disorientation, sensory hallucinations, loss of motor control. Within hours, their medical facilities were overwhelmed with patients suffering from an unknown neurological disorder. The Ashmari military, despite their technological superiority, found themselves fighting an enemy they couldn't locate or understand. Their ships searched empty space while their worlds burned. Their sensors detected no attacking fleets, no conventional weapon signatures, nothing that fit their understanding of warfare. High Command ordered general mobilization, but the pathogen had reached their command centers. Admiral Voskry, the military leader who had personally overseen New Haven's destruction, collapsed during a strategy meeting, his nervous system shutting down one synapse at a time. As he lay dying, human infiltrators made sure he understood exactly what was happening to him and why. "This is for the children who died in the biodomes," Dr. Kim whispered as she knelt beside the alien commander. "This is for the families who never got to say goodbye. This is for New Haven, and this is what revenge means to humans." The second wave of attacks targeted the Ashmari's client species and allies. The message was clear: association with the genocidal regime carried consequences. Some worlds surrendered immediately, broadcasting desperate pleas for mercy. Others fought back, only to discover that human forces had spent years studying their weaknesses, preparing for every contingency. The battle for Tertius 7 lasted 18 hours. The Velmar defensive fleet, pride of the Ashmari Alliance, found itself facing an enemy that seemed to know their every move before they made it. Human forces used the aliens' own formations against them, turning their disciplined coordination into a trap that consumed their entire battle group. As the Ashmari Empire crumbled, their leaders finally understood the magnitude of their error. They had not merely attacked a human colony, they had created a mythology of martyrdom that would outlive their entire civilization. Every human who escaped New Haven had carried that story to other worlds, other species, other potential allies who now saw the Ashmari not as superior beings, but as genocidal tyrants who murdered children. Speaker Zethkri, the alien who had first delivered the ultimatum to New Haven, found himself trapped in his private chambers as human forces systematically dismantled his government. The pathogen was already working on his system, creating vivid hallucinations that transformed his elegant quarters into a recreation of New Haven's final moments. He heard the laughter of human children echoing from the walls, saw the faces of the colonists he had ordered killed staring at him from every mirror. When Sarah Chen's face appeared on his personal communication system, he could barely focus due to the neurological chaos consuming his mind. "Speaker Zethkri," she said, her voice perfectly calm. "Do you remember our last conversation? You asked if we show compassion to bacteria, negotiated with weeds. You called us chaos incarnate, entropy given form. The alien's response was barely coherent, his motor functions failing. How? Impossible. You were dead. Death is a human concept you never bothered to understand," Sarah replied. "We die for our children, for our principles, for abstract concepts like justice and hope. But more importantly, we live for them. We carry forward the memory of those we've lost, and we ensure that their deaths have meaning." She leaned forward, her image filling his failing vision. "You wanted to teach us about power, about our place in the cosmic order. Instead, you taught us that the universe is not as orderly as you believed. You taught us that superior technology means nothing without superior wisdom. Most importantly, you taught us that there are fates worse than death." The transmission ended, leaving Zethkri alone with his hallucinations and the growing understanding that his civilization was ending not with noble defeat, but with the terrifying realization that they had fundamentally misunderstood their victims. The Ashmari homeworld. 18 hours after the beginning of Operation Harvest Moon, the great cities of Ashmari Prime burned with cold fire, their crystalline spires cracking and falling like ancient trees in a storm. But this was not the chaotic destruction of conventional warfare. It was surgical, precise, almost artistic in its execution. Each building that fell had been selected for maximum psychological impact. Each death carefully orchestrated to send a message that echoed across the galaxy. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the New Haven's memory, humanity's most advanced warship and a monument to their transformed philosophy of warfare. The vessel bore no resemblance to the peaceful exploration ships of the old colonial fleet. Its hull was matte black, designed to absorb rather than reflect energy. Its weapon systems were works of terrible art, each one crafted to exploit specific vulnerabilities in Ashmari technology and psychology. "Final phase is ready for implementation," reported Captain Morrison, his voice carrying the weight of 7 years of preparation. Around them, the bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, each one a survivor or descendant of survivors, each one carrying forward the memory of what had been lost. Sarah nodded, her gaze fixed on the tactical display showing the dying Ashmari homeworld below. "Signal all units. Begin the Reckoning Protocol." The Reckoning Protocol was humanity's final gift to their genocidal enemies, a demonstration of mercy that would be infinitely more cruel than simple extinction. Across the planet's surface, human forces began establishing containment zones around the surviving Ashmari populations. Medical stations were erected, staffed by human doctors who worked tirelessly to treat the pathogen's effects. Dr. Amanda Rodriguez coordinated the medical response from the planet's surface. Her field hospital, a surreal contrast to the devastation surrounding it. Ashmari civilians, their nervous systems slowly recovering from the pathogen's effects, found themselves being treated by the very species they had attempted to exterminate. "I don't understand," whispered one of her patients, a young Ashmari whose multifaceted eyes were still clouded with pain. "Why are you helping us? We destroyed your world, killed your people." Rodriguez looked down at the alien child, for that's what it was, despite its frightening appearance, and felt the complex emotions that had driven humanity's long campaign of revenge. "Because," she said quietly, "we want you to live. We want you to remember. We want you to understand exactly what you took from us, and exactly what kind of species you tried to destroy." The medical treatment was not without conditions. Each surviving Ashmari was implanted with a neural interface that would provide them with perfect, indelible memories of New Haven's final days. They would experience every moment of the colony's destruction from the perspective of its victims, the children who died in the biodomes, the parents who sacrificed themselves to save others, the final desperate hours in the command bunker. But they would also experience the colony's life before the attack. They would see the laughter in the hydroponics gardens, feel the hope of families building new lives among the stars, understand the dreams and aspirations that had been cut short by Ashmari arrogance. They would know with perfect clarity exactly what they had destroyed and why humanity had responded with such calculated fury. The process was not pleasant. The first Ashmari to receive the memory implants screamed for hours as their minds processed the foreign experiences. Many went insane, unable to reconcile their species' self-image with the reality of their actions. Others retreated into catatonic states, overwhelmed by the weight of authentic guilt. But some, a crucial few, emerged from the process transformed. They became advocates for their species' surrender, traveling to the remaining Ashmari strongholds to share their new understanding. Their testimony was more devastating than any weapon humanity could have deployed. Zethkri was among the last to receive the treatment. By then, the former speaker had been reduced to a shadow of his former self, his body ravaged by the pathogen and his mind shattered by the collapse of everything he had believed. When the human medical team found him in his private chambers, he was huddled among the ruins of his elegant furniture, speaking the hallucinations of dead human children. "Please," he whispered as Dr. Rodriguez prepared the neural interface. "I understand now. We were wrong. End this. Show mercy." Rodriguez paused in her work, meeting the alien's multifaceted gaze. "This is mercy," she said softly. "You asked us once if we show compassion to bacteria. The answer is yes, we do. When we understand that those bacteria are capable of learning, growing, becoming something better than they were." The memory implantation process for Zethkri took 12 hours. When it was complete, he lay motionless for 3 days, his mind processing centuries of Ashmari superiority complex against the stark reality of human experience. When he finally spoke, his words would be recorded and broadcast across the galaxy. "We believed we were gods," he said, his voice barely audible. "We believed our technology, our longevity, our achievements gave us the right to judge other species. We saw humans as short-lived chaos, entropy in biological form. We never understood that chaos can be creative, that short lives can burn with extraordinary intensity, that the very qualities we despise could forge something greater than ourselves." He paused, struggling with concepts that had no equivalent in his native language. "They forgive us. Do you understand the magnitude of that? They have the power to exterminate our species, to erase us from history as we try to erase them. Instead, they offer us the chance to learn, to grow, to become worthy of the mercy they show us. They are giving us the opportunity to evolve beyond what we were." The transmission spread throughout the galaxy, carried by every communication network, every data stream, every whisper between worlds. Other species watched in fascination and horror as humanity demonstrated a form of warfare that transcended mere destruction. They were not just defeating an enemy. They were transforming them, forcing them to confront the reality of their actions and choose a different path forward. Some alien civilizations that had remained neutral began offering active support to the human cause. The Centauri Federation, longtime rivals of the Ashmari, provided logistical support and safe haven for human refugees. The Epsilon Collective, a group of artificial intelligences, shared advanced technologies that accelerated humanity's recovery efforts. But the most significant response came from the Ashmari themselves. Across the remaining worlds, populations began surrendering without resistance, their leaders broadcasting appeals for human clemency. They had witnessed the fate of their homeworld, understood the choice being offered, transformation or extinction. The final battle of the war took place not on any physical battlefield, but in the great assembly of worlds, the galactic community's primary governing body. Admiral Sarah Chen stood before representatives of thousands of species, her small human frame dwarfed by alien dignitaries whose civilization spanned millennia. "Honored delegates," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber's translation systems. 7 years ago, my species was dismissed as young, chaotic, unworthy of consideration. We were denied the basic right to exist, condemned for the sin of being different from our accusers. Today, we stand before you not as conquerors, but as teachers. She gestured to the Ashmari delegation, their once proud representatives now humble figures bearing the weight of their species transformation. The Ashmari Empire claimed superiority based on technological advancement and cultural achievement. They believed these qualities gave them the right to judge other species, to decide who lived and who died based on their narrow definition of worthiness. But superiority is not measured by the power to destroy. It is measured by the wisdom to create, to preserve, to transform enemies into allies through understanding rather than fear. The Ashmari are learning this lesson, not through conquest, but through the kind of mercy that demands growth and change. The human admiral paused, allowing her words to resonate through the chamber. We propose a new paradigm for interstellar relations. Not the dominance of the strong over the weak, but the responsibility of the wise guide to teach, to ensure that the mistakes of the past are not repeated. We offer the Ashmari not destruction, but redemption, the chance to rebuild their civilization on principles of cooperation rather than conquest. The debate that followed lasted for 3 days. Some species argued for human clemency, impressed by their restraining wisdom. Others demanded harsh punishment for the Ashmari, viewing their attempted genocide as unforgivable. A few suggested that humanity itself was too dangerous, their capacity for calculated revenge too terrifying to ignore. The Ashmari Empire would be dissolved, its territories redistributed among refugee populations and developing civilizations. The surviving Ashmari would undergo mandatory memory integration, experiencing the perspectives of their victims to ensure complete understanding of their actions. They would spend the next century in supervised rehabilitation, learning to contribute positively to galactic civilization. But perhaps most importantly, humanity would be granted full membership in the galactic community, with a special mandate to serve as mediators in interspecies conflicts. Their demonstrated ability to transform enemies into allies through a combination of overwhelming force and unexpected mercy have proven their worthiness to guide others. As the assembly session concluded, Sarah Chen found herself approached by Zetkri, the former speaker who had once condemned her species to extinction. The alien's appearance had changed dramatically. The memory integration process had softened his harsh features, and his eyes now carried depths of understanding that had been absent before. "Admiral Chen," he said, his voice carrying genuine humility, "I wanted to thank you." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "Thank me? For destroying your empire? For killing millions of your people?" "For showing us what we could become," Zetkri replied. "My species spent millennia believing we had achieved perfection, that our way was the only way worthy of survival. You forced us to confront the poverty of that philosophy. The memories you gave us, the pain, yes, but also the beauty, the hope, the incredible complexity of human experience, they have enriched us beyond measure." He paused, struggling with the emotional weight of his words. "We will spend generations earning the forgiveness you have already granted us. We will work to become worthy of the mercy you have shown, and we will ensure that no species ever again suffers as humans suffered, because we understand now what such suffering truly means." Sarah nodded slowly, feeling the weight of 7 years of planning, fighting, and carefully controlled rage finally beginning to lift from her shoulders. "The children of New Haven would be proud," she said quietly. "Their deaths were not meaningless. They became the foundation for something greater than any of us could have imagined." As she walked away from the assembly chambers, Sarah's thoughts turned to her daughter Lily, now a young woman serving aboard one of humanity's diplomatic vessels. The next generation would inherit a galaxy transformed by their parents' determination to ensure that no child would ever again face the terror that had consumed New Haven. The memorial garden on Prometheus Base had grown over the years, tended by survivors and volunteers who ensured that the names of the dead were never forgotten. Sarah paused before the central monument where the names of New Haven's children were inscribed in letters that seemed to glow with their own light. Dr. Marcus Webb joined her, as he had so many times over the years. His hair was completely white now, his frame more fragile, but his eyes remained sharp with intelligence and purpose. "Do you think we did the right thing?" he asked, a question that had haunted them both through the long years of planning and execution. Sarah considered the question, thinking of the billions of lives that had been transformed by their actions, human survivors who had found new purpose, Ashmari who had discovered empathy, and countless other species who now lived in a galaxy where genocide carried consequences beyond imagination. "We forgave," she said finally, "but we never forgot. We transformed our pain into purpose, our loss into a lesson that will echo through the galaxy for generations." The Ashmari learned what revenge means to humans, not mindless destruction, but the patient work of ensuring that such tragedies can never happen again. She touched one of the names carved into the memorial. Emma Rodriguez, age 7, who had loved to chase butterflies in the hydroponic gardens. They wanted to erase us from existence. Instead, we became immortal. Every Ashmari alive carries our memories now. Every species in the galaxy knows our story. We achieved the only victory that truly matters. We ensured that our children's deaths had meaning. Dr. Webb nodded, his eyes reflecting the soft light of the memorial. And we taught the universe something new about justice, not the cold mathematics of an eye for an eye, but the harder path to transformation through understanding. As they stood in silence among the names of the dead, Sarah felt a presence she had carried for 7 years finally beginning to fade. The ghosts of New Haven were at rest now, their legacy secured not in the ashes of their enemies, but in the promise of a galaxy where such tragedies would never again be dismissed as acceptable losses. The war was over. The revenge was complete. And in the quiet of the memorial garden, Sarah Chen finally allowed herself to grieve. Not just for what had been lost, but for what had been found in the darkness, polished by pain into something that shone brighter than any star. 25 years after the fall of New Haven Professor Lily Chen, Nakamura stood before a classroom filled with young beings from across the galaxy, their diverse forms a testament to the transformed universe her mother's generation had fought to create. The lecture hall at the University of New Harmony buzzed with the quiet energy of minds eager to learn, to understand, to avoid the mistakes of the past. "Today we conclude our study of the New Haven incident," she said, activating the holographic display that showed images of the colony as it had been, peaceful, hopeful, alive with possibility. "Who can tell me the most important lesson we've learned from these events?" A young Ashmari student raised her hand, her features bearing the subtle modifications that marked her as one of the memory-integrated generation. "That revenge is not about destroying your enemy, Professor. It's about ensuring they become something better than they were." Lily smiled, seeing in the student's multifaceted eyes the wisdom that had been purchased with so much human blood. "Very good, Kessera. And why is this form of revenge more powerful than simple destruction?" A Centauri delegate spoke up, his voice carrying the harmonic overtones of his species. "Because destruction ends with death, but transformation lasts forever. Every Ashmari alive carries human memories. Every species in the galaxy knows the story of New Haven. The lesson spreads with each generation." "Exactly," Lily confirmed. She changed the display to show the current galaxy, a vast network of cooperating civilizations, refugee populations thriving on former Ashmari worlds, and the great memorial fleet that carried the story of New Haven to distant systems. "My mother used to say to humans, forgive, but we don't forget." She taught the galaxy that memory can be a weapon more powerful than any bomb, more lasting than any conquest. She paused, thinking of Sarah Chen, who had passed peacefully 3 years earlier, surrounded by the family she had fought so hard to preserve. Her final words had been characteristically simple. The children of New Haven can rest now. Their story will live forever. The Ashmari Empire fell not because it was defeated in battle, Lily continued, but because it was forced to confront the reality of its actions. They were not destroyed, they were reborn. Today, former Ashmari colonies are among the galaxy's most active humanitarian centers. They have become the teachers of empathy they once so desperately needed. A student from the Epsilon Collective, her artificial consciousness housed in a beautiful crystalline form, offered her analysis. The humans demonstrated that true power lies not in the ability to inflict suffering, but in the capacity to transform it into growth. They turned their greatest tragedy into their greatest triumph. Lily nodded, feeling the weight of legacy on her shoulders. She was part of the second generation now, the children who had grown up in a galaxy shaped by their parents' sacrifice and determination. The responsibility to carry forward the lessons of New Haven would soon fall to them entirely. Remember, she told her students as the class session ended, the story of New Haven is not just about the past. It's about the future we choose to build. Every decision you make, every interaction you have with members of other species, every moment when you must choose between revenge and justice, in those moments, you honor or dishonor the memory of those who died to teach us these lessons. As the students filed out, chattering in dozens of languages and communication modes, Lily remained at the podium, looking into the holographic image of New Haven that still glowed softly in the air. She had been only 8 when the colony fell, but she remembered the biodomes, the laughter of children, the sense of infinite possibility that had defined their small world. Her mother had kept that promise, made in the toxic waste of Epsilon Reticuli 3 so many years ago. The children of New Haven could indeed rest now. Their story had become the foundation of a new galactic civilization, one built on the understanding that true strength came not from the power to destroy, but from the wisdom to transform enemies into friends. In the depths of space, the Memorial Fleet continued its eternal voyage, carrying the story of New Haven to civilizations not yet contacted, to species not yet born. Each ship bore the names of the dead and the testimony of the survivors, ensuring that the lesson would spread as far as consciousness itself could travel. And in the restored gardens of New Harmony, built on the site where New Haven once stood, children of 100 species played together among flowers that bloomed in alien soil, their laughter echoing across the galaxy like a promise that some things, hope, love, the determination to build something better from the ashes of tragedy, were truly immortal. The humans had taught the galaxy what revenge meant. But more importantly, they had taught it what forgiveness could become when tempered with wisdom, what mercy looked like when coupled with justice, and what it meant to transform the deepest darkness into the brightest light. In the end, Sarah Chen had been right. They forgave, but they never forgot. And in never forgetting, they had ensured that the galaxy itself would remember, would learn, and would never again mistake cruelty for strength or genocide for wisdom. The children of New Haven could rest at last. Their legacy would burn eternal among the stars. Asterisk, we forgive, but we don't forget. In our remembering, we transform not just ourselves, but the very nature of what it means to seek justice in an unjust universe. Asterisk, final words of Admiral Sarah Chen carved into the memorial wall at New Harmony.